I have been sent a video that will either be a really good video essay taking apart the racist dog whistle that has gone viral as of late, the black fatigue dog whistle, or it's going to be a video perpetrating it. I don't know, because I like to go into these videos blind so you can see my thought process in action as we hear these arguments. But I've been sent a video, and it's called, well, I think the name is Black Fatigue. Let me see, I forgot the title. Black Fatigue, the content of their character. And the thumbnail is crazy. For reference on the thumbnail, let me see if I can bring it up really fast. This channel doesn't have any content. Wait, has this channel been... Okay, it hasn't been taken down. This is the thumbnail. So there could be a number of things to expect from this video. The thumbnail is sus, to say the least. And in a month, it's pulled nearly 1 million views. So when I say this black fatigue nonsense has gone viral, I mean it's gone viral. Like, you put black fatigue in your title of your video and you're not critiquing it and calling it racist, then your video is going to get 1 million views, guaranteed, it seems like. It's a very big trend right now. The racism is through the roof right now. So I thought, let's take a look at this video. If it is, in fact, a racist video, let's give it a good old tearing apart. Why not? We rip and tear until it is done. If you end up enjoying this video, of course, leave a like down below, subscribe and ring the bell icon, comment down below, racism is cringe, to let me know that you enjoy the content and want to boost it in the algorithm, and hype the video if you can. Without any further ado, let's get right into it, shall we?
Martin Luther King said that we shouldn't judge people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. He advocated against black people being stereotyped and convinced the world to give them a second chance. And so, there was a renaissance of black culture.
What? Okay, we're already off to a weird start. He begged everyone, the world, to give black people a second chance? Also, Austrian detected, you can already tell this guy's a European, not an American, and is going to have strong opinions in American racial politics that A, don't affect him, and B, he's had literally no experience whatsoever with.
There was a time when it was an utmost honor for a millennial to be complimented by a black guy, and when
Ain't no way, bro. There's no shot. There's no way. We're about to consume some slop, bro. Okay, yeah, so I think we know what kind of video this is gonna be.
Sub-Saharan Africans in Europe weren't synonymous with rape. As you can tell, things quickly went downhill. It is a custom in discussing race relations to blame every shortcoming of the black community on white people, but in this courthouse, we shall judge every...
There's the straw man. Blame every shortcoming of the black community on white people. No. Acknowledging the existence of systemic racism is not blaming white people. Like, if you want to really reduce the conversation to nonsense where there can be no productivity, you can do that. We can do the whole, like, well, who did slavery? Who did Jim Crow? Who did redlining? Who's behind the laws and law enforcement? And who's behind the sentencing that's so disproportionate among races? Like, you could do that whole bit and say it's white people's fault if you want to make it reductive and pointless, but it's more so the systems the left actually criticizes, thank you.
Everyone is equals before Yakub. To help answer the question,
Yakub!
Why is black fatigue at an all-time high? Well, I'll spare you having to
because racism.
Wait for an obvious answer. It's because, unfortunately, many black people seem to have forgotten that to fight stereotypes, you have to not act like them. Disclaimer, I am not trying to justify hate or racism, this is simply an answer to a question. This
Definitely not. Definitely not, guys. He's definitely not.
Video isn't about the entire black race. There are well-adjusted black people out there who go for the same fatigue as everyone else. I will be speaking of people of general sub-Saharan descent because, let's be honest, the results are pretty much the same no matter the region. But for now, let's focus on the least serious charges, the oddities, that make you question certain black traits but harbor no resentment. Most oddities are harmless to anyone outside of Africa. And
yeah, this guy's going on the full white supremacy bit. For those who don't know, it's pretty generally agreed upon at this point that IQ maps pretty strongly to education and upbringing, like nurture over nature, which is not something that a lot of people believed for a long time about IQ, and something that a lot of lay people still don't believe about IQ. And so, yeah, just bringing up an IQ map of the world and showing that the poorest continent on the planet also has the lowest average IQ, to the average retard on the internet, they're like, oh my god! That must mean that black people are inherently worse at intelligence. Because he's brought this up and mentioned it as, like, an oddity. right? And you know, he's trying to just slip this little one in here, you know, get it past us. But I noticed. I'm a bear trap, sharp-eyed.
Any negative impact they have is only felt by black people themselves, but with the floodgates into the West open, you might want to pay attention. Written colonial accounts of Africa are absolute gems. You see, these texts convey knowledge that has been long forbidden from popular discourse. For example, when someone asks you a question, why is Africa perpetually underdeveloped? The best answer you can get from a peer-reviewed expert meta-study is, well, it's because white people are the literal devil and are responsible for all harm 300 years back and millennia into the future.
Damn, we're dealing with someone who is seriously dishonest. Not only is he depicting the academic community as Reddit wojacks, which has become a very fond trait of the right as of late. Like, oh, you back your points up with data and stats? You believe in academic institutions? You bother with evidence for your beliefs in 2025? Gay. And then they depict you as a Reddit wojak, a Reddit soy wojak. Fact-checking and knowing data or caring about any knowledge behind these topics makes you cringe now. But at the same time, pretending to know about them makes you based. And that's what this guy is doing here. So with the whole, like, referencing IQ and whatnot. And now he's trying to suggest that, I guess that the African continent has not caught up with the rest of the world because inferiority is what he's suggesting.
On the other hand, the explorer will tell you that Africa is dysfunctional because it's inhabited by Africans. Frederick Lugard was one of them. What stuck with me the most is when he wrote that the African loves the display of power, but fails to realize its responsibility. In the 1960s, after a century of colonialism,
Man, he is leaning hard into it.
the European powers started withdrawing from Africa. Year by year, more countries started being ruled by black people. The first president of Ghana said that the most important thing is independence, and that
I love this. Let's just, you know, we're just gonna slide over that little detail. Europe pulled out of most of Africa, is what he says. That is not true at all. In the areas where they did pull out completely, all right? Let's say in the areas where they did pull out completely, they left it with a massive power vacuum. They left it in a decimated state. Of course it fell into war and continued civil wars that have happened since, especially because most of the country lines, the borders, are not drawn as according to the peoples that live inside those borders. There are entire ethnic groups that are cut off from each other, that were once recognized nations until Europeans came along and drew up their own maps. And now they're expected to live under the laws of an established majority group within the borders of a country that they don't even want to be a part of. They want to be a part of the country that they were originally a part of, that's been split in part because the Europeans didn't recognize it. And this goes back a long way, of course, but the effects of these things don't just go away in a decade. You know, you can't turn a country into a flaming war zone or leave it in like a terrorist-controlled power vacuum and expect it to just resolve itself in 10 years. This is why America is so powerful. It exercises soft power all over the place. We put our boots down in destabilized regions, we stabilize them, and ideally we come out of it with a new superpower in the world that's beholden to us in some way. Like we did this in Japan, obviously. After war-torn Japan, we made their government. We rebuilt their government. and it basically, to this day, is in part connected to ours. The same goes for the Philippines. There are many countries that America kind of built the government up. For a time, it was Afghanistan, right? Like, that's soft power right there. And the fact is, these regions, no region of the world can just recover on its own from these things. If another part of the world comes in and fucks you up beyond recognition and then just leaves, and that's being generous, they just leave. You don't just recover from that in a decade. You don't just recover from that in 50 decades, or 5 decades even. It takes a century at least to come around from that. And even then, I'd say that's pushing it. But that's already a lie. Like, we're already, like, skating past one of the lies he's told. Many of these countries did not, in fact, see European occupation leave. The European occupation just changed shape. Like, think South Africa, for example. There are a lot of areas throughout Africa in which there are wealthy, white private citizens that basically own massive tracts of land and have their own private militias and shit. Xander Thal is so full of shit. Ah, we got a Nick Fuentes fan in chat, I see. Mr. Unknown Person.
all that is good would emerge from the very fact of independence from colonial powers. Who of the opposing teams was correct? You be the judge.
This film only says farewell to the old Africa and gives to the world the picture of its agony.
As you can see, things didn't really go as planned. This footage comes from a 1964 documentary aptly called Farewell Africa, and it is unfortunately an unscripted course of events. You might get the idea that these guys had no clue what they're doing, and you'd be right. The entirety of Africa essentially said, I don't need no Europe in here, and gave proof that they indeed needed the Europeans. In the Congo, for example, the colonial...
Turns out they needed the Europeans the whole time. Notice how, like, I literally explained the whole thing here about how, like, the Europeans pulled out of a lot of these countries and left massive power vacuums that then led these countries to sink into, like, continuous civil wars, which is a large part of why most of Africa has not recovered. And he immediately lampshades that fact, just in case people are somewhat aware of that, by saying, well, no, the fact that this happened shows that the African countries needed the Europeans all along. Maybe the real Europeans were the blood diamonds we mined along the way.
Governments tried to convince the protesting Africans that they cannot give away every public or technical office to blacks because they aren't qualified yet. The mobs didn't listen and got rid of the only people who knew how to maintain infrastructure, and as a result, they exchanged one foreign power for another because 60 years later, someone had to come and fix the effects of black self-rule, and that is perfectly documented.
Jesus Christ, I cannot believe this guy started his video with a disclaimer that he wasn't promoting hate. The fact that this video has 700,000 views from a channel with, like, practically no subscribers, and that, like, every left-wing channel, including mine, is, like, struggling to reach even their own, like a fraction of their own subscribers when they upload right now, like, that's been the case for the last 4 months now. Like, when I upload, videos get out to 10% of my subscribers, if I'm lucky. It's really bad. YouTube is clearly deboosting left-wing channels. Like, YouTube is clearly putting some kind of, like, stopper on especially smaller left-wing channels to keep too many new ones from popping up, probably under orders from Trump. We already know that Google has been just dick-riding Trump like crazy. And then on top of that, you've got videos like this that are just blatant Nazi propaganda that are going extremely viral and getting hard pushed by the algorithm. It also deboosts anything negative about AI. I've also noticed that, yeah. Negative content about AI definitely does not do well.
In the Empire of Dust, also known as the first ever recorded case of the Chinese getting black fatigue. The documentary follows a Chinese contractor and his African translator who have the simple
They will literally do anything but admit they're racist.
task of getting gravel from point A to point B to finish constructing a road. In the quarry which is supposed to supply them with gravel, the workers are just standing around doing nothing. The owner of the quarry is late and tries to sell them the wrong kind of gravel at an inflated price, and if it wasn't bad enough already, back at base the truck owners had to start measuring the fuel in centimeters because the Africans kept stealing it. On top of that, black drivers aren't really used to treating their trucks gently, to say the least, so the equipment is often battered. But why are the Chinese even building a road there? Well, that's because the Congolese have not maintained any infrastructure since the colonial...
What he's talking about right now is the, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Belt and Road Initiative, where China wants to build a massive, like, road system that goes through all of Asia and Africa. Like, just, like, the big, and like, through the Middle East and stuff. Like, just the biggest, like recreating the Silk Road, essentially, is the goal. And a lot of this involves massive investment into Africa. The fact is, what he's trying to describe, he is essentially, he's lying blatantly. China is looking at Africa right now as a massive investment opportunity. China is trying to build roads to Africa, literally. Literally. That is literally what they are trying to do. They are literally trying to build roads to Africa. So no, it is not China taking over the road maintenance because black people can't do it themselves. It's China investing in the biggest, like, attempt at taking over world trade that's ever been seen in history.
authorities left. The Congo actually had more working railways during colonialism than they had in the early 2000s. As they say, what did Zimbabwe use for a light before candles? Electricity. I'm not a brain-dead boomer to be into instant karma or fuck around and find out type content, but the history of post-colonial Africa fits into that narrative, unfortunately. Keep in mind that unlike
fuck around by wanting independence, find out. Really? That was the fuck around and find out. Africa got colonized, wanted the colonization to end. That was the fucking around. The like, being set back continent-wide is the find out. Like, come on, bro.
Like leftists, I am not basing my opinion on works of fiction. The display of hopelessness...
Wait, apparently A Handmaid's Tale is what leftists base their beliefs on now? Okay.
Every societal level shown in both films actually prompted me to ask the Africa question. What if it isn't just malicious outside forces keeping Africa impoverished, but also the common people as well? It was like the moment in The Truman Show when the stage light fell, a realization that something is up with the supposed doctors and rocket scientists from below the Sahara Desert. What perplexes me is that someone looked at these people and said, you know what Europe needs a lot of? As many of them as we can cram onto our continent. They say only
there's the funny thing they do where they describe the simple act of allowing immigration as like some active effort made to consciously import, quote unquote, a certain kind of immigrant. As if it's not just people want to come to countries to escape their situation or seek a better life, and they're allowed to. At least for now.
Importing infinite sub-Saharans will save the West from economic collapse brought on by low birth rates. But hold on, I think I heard that song before. 300 years back, North American slave owners said that if they weren't allowed to
I'm gonna guess what he's gonna try and claim is that allowing immigration is akin to slavery. Yeah, people voluntarily and in fact begging to be brought into a country so that they can seek out a better life with higher wages. He does realize that no country in Africa has wages on par with wages in Europe or America, right? Like, no one... Well, I guess a lot of retards bought this, so I'm not buying this. I hope none of you guys are.
Import and breed infinity West Africans in the South, the cash crop economy based on tobacco and cotton is going to collapse. That's because we're dealing with the same historical archetype of evil, the importers. A powerful group of people who, under the guise of a pragmatic economic justification, want to flood their countries with endless foreigners, impoverishing native workers, and making the wealthy even wealthier. It happened once, with patricians flooding Rome with war captives during the late Republic. It happened twice with North American slavery, and finally with the current generation of bureaucrats dumping sub-Saharans into the West to save the birth rates. It is...
What? Oh, what's that meme there, buddy? What's that meme? Dude, I'm a fucking... I wonder what word that is that he cut out there. I don't care, I'm going to take your shit and then kill you. Wonder what word's supposed to be there.
Birth rates. It is like a true Pandora's box that once opened releases loud black women into public spaces. We no longer are dealing with a simple oddity, something that we can observe from a distance. No.
What? No, okay. He's laying it on so thick now. The Goodall thing? The fucking Jane Goodall? The fucking, like, the ape scientist? Doing, like, fascinating behavior, looking at with binoculars at African farmers? Dude, you cannot lay it on this thick, bro. Oh my god.
No, this time the subjects are the people who, through the means of willful or forced importation, have found themselves in the West. We're entering the threshold of the inconvenience, where the black antics and shenanigans start to be felt by everyone, not just the black community itself.
How dare they have a good time in a store. Like, literally, the equivalent of that is, like, a group of white boys hyped about the new Halo release, stopping at McDonald's, and, like, taking a group photo huddled around, and going like, Halo, Halo, Halo. No one would see that video and make it about race. No one would see a video of that and make it about race. Not in a million years.
So why not start with the most notorious type? African Americans are a group whose ancestors got dragged out from the least developed place on the planet to arguably one of the most. The problem is the rural southerners who became the main civilizing force were...
Well, no. They got shipped to probably the least civilized part of America, which was the American South. The least developed, least civilized. Yeah. The American South was not developed. I mean, not the most developed, if that's your claim.
Weren't the most civilized to begin with. The evolving African-American identity enveloped the worst aspects of white hick culture, such as blood feuds, a lackluster work ethic, pointless bloodshed being seen as masculine.
Okay, so he's a European white person, so he can do the whole, like, white American Southerners are lazy, feudal, or like, prone to feuds, sorry, and violent. And then use that as a bouncing off point to say, and they infected black people with this a long time ago. And he doesn't have to like take anything on the chin because he's a European. He's Austrian or whatever based on his accent. According to my chat, that's what they think he is. And obviously, this is just a roundabout way of basically repeating the exact same stereotypes about black people that have been around for hundreds of years and have informed these exact atrocities that he's now trying to weaponize in favor of racism. Like, it's so funny how often those that are the most racist always love to weaponize the words of people like MLK, or the worst atrocities committed against the race they hate, you know, slavery is a good example, in order to revitalize and push a modern version of that hate.
And developed it into an ongoing tragedy, also known as modern ghetto culture. But how does this translate into reality? It's interesting how someone is able to turn an already bad situation into a terrible one. Escalating a misdemeanor into a full-blown felony or an even worse result is a hellish perspective. But it seems that black people, just like in other avenues of life...
Do you want to know what, like, piece of media that's been around since, like, I was a little guy? Because none of this is new. This is all this, like, people are getting fatigued. This is out of control now. None of this is new. Conversations about these issues have been around for longer than any of us have been around. But you know what show did a really good job of covering this, like, idea? The Boondocks. It's an older show. It's had some newer episodes, but, like, the original seasons are older, for sure. And I feel like it covered these ideas very well, satirically and humorously, for sure. But, like, don't get me wrong. Black people in America, mostly due to a generalized poverty that most black people face, or at least, correct me if I'm wrong, is it not most black people live in poverty in America, as opposed to, like, a quarter or a third of white people? That said, though, depending on where you put the poverty line in America is really low, but if you put it, like, actually at the line of affordability, then I'm pretty sure it's, like, half or something of black people live under the poverty line. If you establish it somewhere reasonable, and not, like, at like $5,000 a year or something like it is in America. But that aside, though, like there you can have conversations about things like, are certain aspects of black pop culture, which is what he's actually criticizing here. He's criticizing, like, I guess what you would identify as black pop culture, not black culture. American culture in general is very broad and very, like, locale based, right? Like, black culture in LA is not the same as black culture in New York, for instance. But if we're gonna really generalize, like, as much as fucking possible, hell, even across age groups, cultures are different. But all of that aside, if you want to have that critique that maybe there are some aspects of, like, Gen Z black culture online that are toxic, you can have that conversation, and it's been being had for a very long time, and no one will call you racist for it. Right? There's the fact that you're trying to make it into this whole, like, hell, you flashed maps of, like, the IQ and of, like, black communities throughout Africa and America on screen multiple times. Like, you are clearly trying to have a malicious conversation, not a productive one.
Life are overrepresented, notably in cases of giving up their life for a one-way ticket to Valhalla. However, it isn't all just about being short-sighted, but also about not knowing when to step back. The restaurant rumble, the drive-thru tussle, or the carnival cruise clash all result from an inability to solve problems.
Hey! Wow, look at that! Of course, we got the Boondocks.
Without escalation, being stubborn and incapable of taking an insult without turning the whole venue into a battle.
He realizes that scene is like 20 years old, right?
Ground isn't a virtue. If there's one word in the world that describes contemporary black culture best, it definitely isn't polite. A lack of courtesy translates to a disregard of any societal rules that make the West be at all different from Somalia. Fortunately, ghetto culture is here to bridge that gap.
Alright, I'm gonna tell you this. Okay, I'm gonna ask you this question. In all honesty, do you really think that white culture is nice? Like, think for a moment about America as a whole. Do you really think that there is a all-encompassing whole white culture in America, for starters? But even then, if you think there is, would you really call it nice? Do you really think that generally white culture is nice? That just because someone is white, you assume them to be polite and approachable just on that merit alone? Do you really operate that way in your everyday life? Do you really assume that and operate on that assumption? Like, be honest with yourself. Don't tell me. Don't answer to me. Just ask yourself that question, if you actually think that's true.
by the means of the street takeover, cutting up traffic, the devious lick, and the Kia challenge. Why does every trend...
Oh my god, I cannot believe we got the Kia thing mentioned. I literally referenced it earlier this stream when we were doing the Nick Fuentes segment.
Roots or a large black fan base have to revolve around being a nuisance to society. So it should be no surprise that this October marks the first time in 35 years when a rap song hasn't been in the top 40 songs list. People are starting to grow fatigued of the 80 IQ mumbling black man genre of music, but you'd be wrong to think this is just about artistic
Damn. God damn. He is leaning hard into it. This is, this stat is something they've been leaning on pretty hard. Is this idea that, so for some reason in the last year, there were no rap songs that hit the top 50 list. This could just be that rap is going out of style. According to this guy, rap is the only music that black people make. I'm really curious how many artists in the top 50 are black. Because what he's claiming right now is that black fatigue isn't, like, the lack of, like, top 50 artists it being, like, rap artists must mean that, like, Americans are fatigued with black culture. Maybe rap is just starting to lose to pop or something else. What would be a better tell is how many of those top 50 artists are black. I have a feeling most of them might be. But let's find out. I'm really curious, actually. I'm actually really curious about this. Is America even experiencing the black fatigue that this guy is alleging? Top 50 music artists 2025. Taylor Swift. Well, she's a white woman, to be fair. Bad Bunny, who is, I believe, Puerto Rican and does Latin music. The Weeknd, who is black. Drake, who is black. Billie Eilish, who is white. Kendrick Lamar, who is black. That is the top list. So 3 out of the top 6 are black. I'm going to assume it's going to be roughly the same. Going down the list further from just the top 6. But yeah, roughly 50-50. So I don't really think that this logic applies. It just seems like rap is out of style right now. Because Drake and The Weeknd in particular, and Kendrick don't really do rap. Like they kind of, like sometimes they've done it. Like it's kind of mixed into the songs because they can be a little experimental. But I guess you'd call what they do maybe hip hop or pop or whatever. But like, I'm not a music guy, so I don't know, but it's not rap.
Value. The vernacular, the ways of dressing, and demeanor have overstayed their welcome under the spotlight.
Dude, this guy is basing his entire argument on the fact that, like, rap as a music trend is dying. Kendrick is literally a rapper. He is, but, like, he kind of blurs the lines, I think. He's kind of... You can actively feel that he's shifting into... He's shifting out of it, like, as we speak. Like, he's actively starting to shift into more of, like, I don't even know what you would call it. Like, I guess rap is so broad of a definition, I don't even know. Wow, this meme is full of Nazi shit. That is crazy. I mean, yeah, he's definitely a rapper, don't get me wrong, but I can kind of feel that he's shifting out of it. I feel like rap as a music genre is going out of style. Like, it'll never die, okay? Like, let's be real, it'll never die. But, like, I don't think it's gonna occupy the majority of the top 50. I don't think that's to be expected. I feel like rap was really big in the 2010s. And also, of course, the 90s and 2000s. Like, rap was always big, but I feel like you're kind of, you know, it's kind of taking the back seat to other art forms, other types of music.
But this topic warrants an update to the dichotomy. It's no longer what blacks did to the world, but what rap music did to black people. There was this particular type of person present throughout the West, the moral outrage alarmist, usually an old person who used to haunt the discourse by saying that rock and roll is satanic, that video games cause violence, and that rap makes you murder people. During the era of millennial-occupied culture, everyone always hated
the fucking fajitas. So this guy is a full-on Nazi. Like, he was on board with the, like, dogpiling of Jack's films for posting a picture of himself eating fajitas.
These individuals for their supposed misunderstanding of it, but as Zoomers, we have to interface with the fact that these people were partially right. Rap completely one-shotted blacks because it made the most violent, socially corrosive form of expression the only mainstream aspect of their culture, which we traditionally view as a monument to human achievement. But as we're slowly learning, it isn't always the case. In African American history, there's a notable shift where black culture stopped being just a product of poverty and became the thing that perpetuated it for generations to come. We have been told time and time again that
All right, we're done. We're done here. Literally every... Like, at the end of the day, like, how can you argue with people who are just making up a reality for a bunch of teenagers on the internet? Like, every criminologist and law enforcement specialist agrees that crime correlates directly with poverty. Every criminologist and crime sciences expert agrees that black people's poverty in America is a direct line from slavery, redlining, Jim Crow, segregation, like modern day disproportionate police enforcement and sentencing. There are dozens of other examples I could list, but those are the big ones that everyone's always talking about. But like when you're dealing with someone like this who's just like willfully ignorant about reality or lying about it knowingly in order to brainwash people, what do you even do? Like, I want to read the comments on this video. I want to see what the comments are just to see how many people are falling for this. Chimpulse behavior, I like that, is the top comment. So I guess he ends up calling black people chimps in this video, and the comments like that. You simply aren't angry enough yet. The ceiling bird has been real quiet since this video dropped. Turns out we've been judging them by the content of their characters all along. Haha, hilarious. Stereotypes are pattern recognition, not racism. Ah yes, to fight against the police, they had to attack random civilians. I don't like the content of their character, based. I love body cameras. They simultaneously slash police brutality by a massive amount and expose how many false claims. It's great. Socioeconomic factors facing Jamal DeQuavius to set a 90-year-old veteran on fire because he can't afford a Hellcat. Yakub had black fatigue before it was mainstream. We judged them by the content of their character, and now they want to go back to judging by their skin color. Imagine that. What did Zimbabwe use to light before candles? Electricity. Up until recently, 85 IQ or lower was considered mentally retarded. Cheap cotton has been the most expensive mistake in American history. You can ignore reality, you can ignore the consequence, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. Thank God for body cams. The African man's roof is leaking. He can't fix it because it's raining outside, and when it's not raining, he doesn't need to fix it because it's not a problem right now. Here before this one too gets removed. Ayo, Judge made me on my character steals your car. As a younger millennial, I'm so glad Gen Z is finally here to reinforce. This has been a long and exhausting fight. I think we'll end it with that one. So yeah, Gen Z are still in their Nazi phase, for sure. Big time in their Nazi phase. But we can only hope that they're going to break out of this shit. Because this channel is seeing some absurd growth. This video blew up, man. Like, you cannot tell me YouTube isn't boosting right-wing content. Like, there's no way content like this is going viral, unabated by YouTube, despite being blatant. Like, look at the thumbnail, dog. Like, there's no way this content is going viral on YouTube while left-wing content suffers, and it's not because YouTube flicked a few switches behind the scenes on the algorithm. Ah, that stings. That stings. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, enjoyable, educational in any way, consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really helps a lot. You know, maybe we can compete against this Nazi propaganda one day. And of course, be sure to subscribe if you want to see more from me. It really does help. Comment down below. Racism is cringe. Tell me you watched this far and that you support the content. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you again. Thank you for watching.